Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of the Elliot Loney Podcast. Today I was joined by my good friend Nikki Osborne, and Nikki Osborne is a lady who's done it all. She's been in movies, TV shows, she even hosted her own quiz show back in the day, and she's most recently performed stand-up comedy at the Sydney Opera House, which is pretty much the biggest honour any comedian can have here in this country, and she's had a successful modelling career. She has done it all. I'm really looking forward to sharing her story with you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Nikki, thank you very much for joining me, mate. Really appreciate you giving up your time to be on this podcast. It's great to have you here. How are you, first and foremost?
Taking a lot of time out of my usual afternoons to have a chat to you.
you got a scotch there? You ready to?
You know what? A podcast is the best way to not drink alone. So now I'm being sociable.
Yeah, well, I didn't get the memo. I should have got my own scotch and got ready to rock.
Bloody oath you should have. That's how we roll. We mums stuck doing homeschooling. But as soon as I open the class dojo, it's this stupid app for homeschooling. As soon as I open it, I just read it. It says graphemes and phonemes and I don't know what the hell it is. And I'm just like, straight to the fridge. So basically, yeah, day drinking starts when homeschooling starts. And then the school bell goes, usually when the smoke alarm goes, when I've burnt lunch. So that's how isolation's gone.
I see you tend to love a scotch. You talk about it in your comedy a bit. You have a bit of it, which is great because I enjoy scotch. Scotch is probably my favourite drink. I like spirits, but I haven't met too many women who can smash a scotch. So hats off because it's bloody impressive. I've got to say.
Well, people say, "Oh, that's your shtick now," and it's like it's my shtick, or it could be my crutch, or it could be a problem.
You could drink a lot of blokes under the table. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I reckon I could actually.
I reckon you could get me for sure.
I am very well rehearsed.
Yeah.
It's my skill. I'm an athlete. You
so
can play tennis.
Like the kids are back.
Hey?
The kids are back at school, yeah?
One is.
Oh, okay.
And the other one's become like a professional gamer, and I've locked him in the other room, but I don't need to lock him because he doesn't come out anyway. But as far as I know, he's eloped with some virtual bride.
That's hilarious. So yeah, like one of the reasons I want to get you on is because you've had like such an interesting career. You've had success as a model, you've had success as an actress, you've been in, feature films and TV shows, and you've even hosted Quiz Mania, which was one of my personal favorite shows when I was growing up. I used to catch it every night, late at night, or most nights anyway. A lot of my friends used to talk about it. We used to try and call in, never got through, but one can only dream.
I know. I feel so bad. So many young males called in and didn't get to chat to the redhead with a boobs hoiked to high heaven. I got engaged during that show, and Channel 9 told me I wasn't allowed to tell anyone, so I had to keep it a secret.
Wow. How did your husband feel about that at the time? Or your fiance at the time?
Probably how he feels still now, invisible.
So obviously you've always been an entertainer at heart, I would assume. So growing up as a kid, were you always sort of extroverted and wanting to entertain people, or is that something that's
yeah, I've been painful from the get-go. So it started when I was 4, which my mother-in-law, who does astrology, would say that's when your Saturn went into Leo, darling, and it was in there for 30 years, and that's the look at me planet. That's her take. I've got an astrologer mother-in-law. 4, I was doing Michael Jackson impersonations at my family barbecue. So I was doing all these moves, and then I used to do all the talent contests and do my MJ moves. I was fucking good, but well, that's what I'd say anyway. So I've always struggled with confidence, Loney.
Yeah.
And then I organised my own drama troupe at school. And the really annoying Jewish bird from Glee, the really talented one, but the really annoying one who organises everything. All that Glee that you watch, all that musical theatre comedy you watch.
Yeah, not as much, but I think I have seen. I've seen.
I was that thespian. I would live and breathe drama and the stage, and I'd put on shows all the time at school just so I could get out of afternoon maths. So I kept organising, kept making shows just to get out of proper work, and I'm still doing it today.
And were you an only child growing up?
I have an older sister.
Mm-hmm.
She's the pretty one. So she was 6 feet at 13, and she was a model. She won the equivalent of Australia's Next Top Model back in the day. And so I was the invisible one. So that's why I had to be particularly in your face, because I was sitting next to bloody Elle McPherson everywhere we went. So yeah, I developed a personality, and my sister didn't.
So what's your sister doing now? Is she?
No, I can't say it. It's so terrible.
That's all right.
She's actually really funny.
I'm sure.
No, she decided to become a doctor. Fucking hell. Like,
actually, a medical doctor.
She ended up becoming an occupational therapist.
Wow.
Because she was too queasy. But yeah, she could have studied medicine because she topped the fucking school. Oh.
Wow, that's amazing.
No wonder I ended up doing comedy.
So
dark
that's
and bitter.
Interesting dynamic growing up though as well, because like obviously, you know, if your sister's top in the class and she's all academia and she's doing all this kind of stuff, and you're always performing and doing all that kind of stuff. So like, were your parents ever like, were they always supportive of you getting into, you know, the entertainment space, or were they like, no, Nikki, we want you to follow your sister's route, be an occupational therapist, get into medicine?
They wanted me to play golf for Australia.
You're a golfer?
My dad's a ripper golfer, and he was a race car driver as well. So it was always sport. So I grew up game fishing. So both of our parents are in shock that Renee ended up really bright in medicine, basically, and I ended up on the stage, because none of that is in our genetics or in our family. So both of us went rogue. I should have been Kari Webb or Adam Scott.
Yeah, so you mentioned golf. So you played golf growing up as a kid as well. That was something you spent a bit of time doing?
Golf, go-karts and fishing.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So, yeah, that's what I did. So, yeah, it was really weird, because I did a stand-up show called Bad Barbie last year. Yeah. And basically, because everyone looks at me and assumes one thing. Mind you, now I've cut my hair off. I'm kind of slowly losing the princess. But
it's very Cameron Diaz-esque, this hair.
Stop it! Yeah. I love her so much.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be Cameron. I've always been more Kate Winslet, because I've always had like this caramelly, coppery tinge. And I'm like, give me Cameron to the hairdresser. And they finally did it. But yeah, in Bad Barbie, because, you know, you grow up looking like a princess, and people just assume that you don't have a brain and you're not funny, and everything just gets handed to you on a silver platter. And because I grew up as a grommet, and I wasn't attractive till I was like 18. You know, I was like a grommet wearing a Broncos Guernsey everywhere I went, trying to compete with the boys and playing golf with toads over the fence. Then all of a sudden, you know, I got long legs, long blonde hair and tits, and everyone was like, oh my God. And I was like, what the fuck do I do with this? It just got in the way. But now I've learned how to use it. But it was really in my way.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm like, I want to be funny, and I think I'm reasonably talented. And then everyone just thinks, okay, you can play cheerleader number 3. I'm like, fuck off. Yeah.
Well, I've got to say, it must be a good problem to have. I've had a crook head since I came out the womb, Nikki. So
shut up, Loney. You got a good-looking mug on top of a rippery.
Oh, shucks.
You do well.
No.
And you got like the hottest bird at uni. You're still with it, right?
No, so I've got a girlfriend now, and her name's
It's a different one.
Yeah, her name's Nat, and we've been dating for about a year now. But she's certainly the brains of the operation. She's a lawyer and works at one of those top tier law firms. So if ever I have a legal,
that's great. She can do your contracts.
Yeah, that's it. So she's I don't think entertainment law is her profession, but obviously she still has a really good understanding of the law. So she still gets asked those questions, even though she's probably sick of hearing them. But I still ask her some questions from time to time.
I know poor lawyers, you're like, oh, someone slipped over on my deck and they want to sue me. What do I do? And they're like, I don't cover that area.
Oh, I can't believe it. I think she's amazing. I certainly couldn't do it. I mean, gee, it's a tough job being a lawyer, I reckon. Like long hours, pretty stressful, and I'm glad I'm in the entertainment space. What can I say?
all those people with proper jobs. Jobs where part of my contract now is that there must be a minibar with scotch in it. That's part of my contract. Like, what an amazing profession to be in.
That's
when
unbelievable.
this is part of my contract.
That's unbelievable.
Like, oh, which whiskey does Nikki need? Like, my God, I'm shooting a show next week, and producers emailed me and they said, we've arranged a bartender for you for the shoot.
That is incredible.
I'm like, I've made it.
See, I still haven't ascended to that level of entertainment prowess just yet, but hopefully one day I'll be able to get my own barman. That's something else.
Oh.
That's something else.
Yeah, I'm having a moment because it's fresh.
Now,
Fresh news. Yeah.
you studied acting, didn't you? You went to an acting school and you studied the craft. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I studied at QUT, which is a 3-year conservatory style degree where they only take in 15 people, audition based, blah, 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 blah. Wankerville. And yeah, I studied the method. So there was a lot of crying and all of that, which is weird because I just wanted to do comedy or be on Neighbours. I'm like, why am I crying every day when you don't have to cry on Neighbours? Nothing real happens. I can have a go at Neighbours because ironically it's like the one show I haven't done.
I guess being a kid, when you were growing up, your aspiration was always to get into acting then? After
Yes.
Yep. So like, aside from obviously all your sporting stuff and being a bit of a tomboy growing up, it was like you always had that acting streak in you, didn't you? Like always a bit of a performer.
Yes.
And
yes.
moving on to your career-defining moments here and where you're at now, because you did mention the Opera House, and it's pretty incredible. Like looking at your rap sheet earlier, I mean, you've done it all: cover girl, model, acted in feature films. You're on Celebrity Get Me Out of Here as well, which is a very popular show here in Australia. And you've obviously performed in comedy galas at the Opera House. So, what's your favourite moment from your career so far? Because you've done a lot of different things.
I've got to say, I think probably the most tingles I've ever got was when I got the phone call about performing at the Opera House. Because I never in my mind thought that I would be considered worthy of doing stand-up at the Opera House. So, yeah, it was funny because I just signed with my management and that was the first gig they got me. They called up and they said, "Oh, Nick, we've got your first gig." I'm like, "Oh, yeah," I'm expecting to go and perform for some nanas at an RSL. And they're like, "Yeah, you're being invited to do Just for Laughs at the Opera House." I'm like, "I beg your pardon? I mean, fucking hell, if that's the start, what's next? Fucking Buckingham?" Like, they set the bar very high, very early. And I was terrified.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, that's like, obviously, pretty much every comedian in Australia's stand-up comedian's dream. So what's that like? What are the nerves like? What goes through your head? What's the preparation like? Like, obviously that's a huge place to perform.
Yeah. Well, this helped. But thankfully I just toured a show and I was doing part of that show. So it was pretty tight already. But it was funny because I did a warm-up gig the night before, but it was the dust storm in Sydney. So all flights have been cancelled. I had 3 flights cancelled and I'm begging women at the desk going, get me on a flight. I'm doing the Opera House tomorrow. And they're like, "Oh, we can't get you on a flight till Sunday." So I nearly missed it. But then they managed to get me on the last seat to Sydney and I had this practice gig. And because I was so stressed, I went and did my set and I just totally bombed. And I came off going, "Oh, I've got to do this tomorrow night." And I just died in the ass. In fact, it died so hard. It was like a 3-week-old dead. It was awful. But then, yeah, just tweaked a few things and had a nice day on the harbour. And then, yeah, I said to Peter Helly, who was backstage with me, I said, "Pete, I just totally changed my intro." And he's like, "Have another drink, Nick." But no, it went great. And then I got invited back the next year, and now I'm hosting a JFL show. So it's ridiculous, but it's fun, and I'm very, very happy.
That's unbelievable. And obviously for you, you've got a lot of stuff that you're balancing in your life. You know, you got kids, you got a husband, you got a career. So what's the most difficult thing about balancing it all?
High heels.
I can see it ticking over.
I'm like, there's a joke.
Yeah.
I think, look, I've got a feminist husband, so that helps. So he's all like, go, well, domination, but make sure you bring in enough to cover the mortgage and all bills and the private school. But yeah, the hard thing is trying to give my all to a show, but also give my all to the kids. So trying to work out when to switch on and switch off at home, I find very, very challenging. And I even called my manager at the start of the year and I said, because we'll start planning my tour, which got completely cancelled. Thanks, Rona. And I said, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I can't keep going away, because I'd been away for 2 months out of 3. And so I hadn't seen my kids for 2 months. And I said, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
That's so tough.
And yeah, it was tough. And I felt like my kids were little strangers, and I felt like a really, really shit mum. And I'm like, what am I doing this for? And then Rona happened. And then I've had 10 weeks with them. And I realised I can do it.
Yeah,
that's the hardest part, is to just not be a shit mum. And still, you get home from shows and you still got to shag your husband.
Well,
even though you're really tired and you just want to go to bed. So yeah, finding the energy for that after a hard set.
No, that's one of the things I love about you.
Hard sets. You're
always very open and honest, which is something that's that's definitely true. I did some research earlier, and I found out on the website Shortle, which contains a database of all the comedians operating in the UK. They had 269 female comedians and 1,279 comedians who are male. So, in your opinion, why is there so many more men in comedy than women?
What's the old saying? Dear God, please grant me the confidence of a middle-aged white man. Yeah, I don't know. I think comedy for a long time has been dominated by men, because everything's been dominated by men, I guess. You know, even my mother-in-law, you know, she doesn't really drive much, and she doesn't do this and didn't do that, darling, because that wasn't what we did in the day. Men also think, you know, in general, that they're the funniest people in the room. That's not me being mean or bitter, but they just do. But I don't know. I think women are, you know, since the Me Too movement, women are getting a far greater representation in television, that's for sure. So the show that I'm hosting soon with Channel 10, it's almost an equal distribution of the female and the male comedians that are being represented. So even though that doesn't represent the amount in the circuit, they are getting the platform now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I don't know, funny's funny. Don't know. Maybe there are more funny men than funny women. I don't know. I shouldn't say that, should I? I shouldn't say that.
Well,
but you know, we've had to undo a lot of programming that, you know, women are to be seen and not heard.
That's something that I was just interested to get your opinion on, because obviously you are a very funny woman, and someone who I've seen do stand-up before. I've really enjoyed your stand-up. I think you're very funny, and you've done sketch comedy, you've done stand-up comedy. And I was talking to one of my friends, and she's absolutely hilarious, and she's quite a bit of a veteran now on the stand-up scene. And she said when she first started out, she said this, and it was like a quote that I sort of stuck with me, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. She said, with what I find is with women, they're not funny until proven otherwise. And then with men, they're funny until proven otherwise. When she felt that when she got on stage, And this is
That's interesting.
yeah, that's what she told me. So I was like, oh, that's interesting, because being a man, I've never experienced that, obviously, because, you know, I'm not a woman.
Well, yeah,
so.
no, that's probably true. There probably is still the presumption from the audience, oh, there's a woman out here. Oh, God, let's hope she's good.
Yeah, yeah.
I reckon that probably is the attitude.
Well, it's interesting because, yeah, I mean, obviously you've had great responses from audiences, and I saw your Opera House gig, and the crowd obviously loved it. So, have you found that at all when you've gone on stage? Do you get that impression, or is it different for you? What do you think?
Oh, I don't think mine's a female-male issue. I think I like to wear pretty frocks and get all dolled up.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband said, you need to cut your hair or something. Because, you know, I had the big lock. He said, whenever you wear makeup and get all dolled up, you look like a Playboy bunny walking out. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I found that my appearance was undermining my credibility. Which initially I saw as a hindrance, but then when I started to embrace it and just name the elephant in the room as soon as I walked out, then people were on board. So, yeah, mine was just dealing with the prejudice that I looked like I was a weather girl. And then once I named that, everyone was fine. Plus, you know, I come out, I've got my shows, they're full of foul language and a lot of inappropriate stuff.
Well, that leads me on to my next question, because I know that you do, as I said earlier, you've got no filter, and that's one of the things I love about you. So when you do say stuff on stage, it's a bit loose. Have you ever had a heckler say something ridiculous? Like, what's the strangest heckle you've had while you've been on the stage?
I had one woman just stand up and actually I've had a few.
What's the one that stands out?
It's always women though, which is weird.
That is weird.
No, actually, probably my favourite one was on a cruise, and it was my first ever comedy cruise, and it was a packed room. I think there was 600 people in the room, and the first guy was out doing his set, and I could hear this loud, obnoxious woman in the crowd, and I was just like, oh, I want to punch her so hard. And the other comedian just stuck to his text and just kept going, got through his set, and then walked off just going, oh, I want to kill her. And then I came out, and that's it. The gloves were off. I'm like, right, where are you? Who are you? Where are you from? And that was it. It was just this roast and this sparring fest with this chick called Louise from ACT.
No
and
way.
It was a roast. And she ended up taking her jacket off, coming up to punch me. This is my first comedy cruise. My house.
Yeah.
And then she's coming up, and I'm like, "You're gonna fight me, Louise? You're gonna fight? Fuck, you're gonna fight me, Louise!" Come on. So I'm getting my heels ready to whack her with my heel.
Yeah.
And then I managed to turn it on its head and got the crowd involved, and they ended up chanting, "Get rid of Louise, get rid of Louise." And then security came in and off went Louise. And she had a great cruise for the rest of it. Not.
Well, that's a strange place to pick a fight with a comedian on a cruise ship.
Yeah, I know, especially when you're absolutely up to the eyeballs in Bundy and Coke since 10 a.m. in the morning because it's all on a tab. Whereas I was fresh. I was only 3 scotches in. I was sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was probably my favourite heckler.
Now, you've hosted Quiz Mania, you've featured in movies, starred in TV shows, and done live performances. What's your most enjoyable moment from all that?
Enjoyable moment? Oh, I'll tell you what, I did love Quiz Mania. I
was going to say, that looked like fun. It
was so much fun, and I didn't even realise at the time what I had. I was gifted 2 hours of live television every night, late at night, with no real censoring at all. And I could just say and do whatever I wanted, and I got to interact with, you know, whoever called in. Like,
amazing.
That was great.
Yeah, amazing.
And it was such a good place to, you know, cut your teeth and get your shtick together. So I did love that. And then another favourite moment would have to be when you come off stage after a killer gig.
Yeah. Best feeling in the world. Yeah.
It really is, because no one can take it off you, especially when it's on camera and you're like, ha ha ha, people look at my funny.
Yeah.
It's
No,
nice.
absolutely. Well, it's interesting you say that about Quiz Mania as well. And as you said, 2 hours is a long time to have television time live, and obviously that would have required a lot of improvisational skill. And did that help, you think, moving on into your comedy career? Obviously having that as a...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I realised that it was a skill I had back in uni, because we used to do this, it was called disconnected impulsivity exercise, where you just had to just keep running, whatever pops into your head, just keep it going, and people would just get stuck. And I'm like, I can do this all day. And I realised, okay, that's the skill I have. And then when I auditioned for Quiz Mania, and it just kept coming, I went, oh, okay, this is a legit skill. And that was when I started to write a bit of material, as well as do the improv. So, yeah, I've kind of come at stand-up more from an improv point of view, and then I've started to write material, because you probably should have some material. Yeah.
No, absolutely. What's your process like when you write? Because every comedian has a different process when they write their stand-up. Do you tend to walk around a room and speak to yourself until something's funny, or do you sit down and you write stuff? Like, how do you go about it?
It's weird. Jokes hit me in the back of the head when I go for a run. It's really weird. Something funny just goes bang. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Quick, write it down. And then I find my way around it and I write it. And then I'll have chai with my mum the next morning, and I'll just kind of tell it to her in conversation. If she cracks up, then I know it's funny.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm assuming that you've been running a lot.
Yeah, I run every morning. And I'm just waiting for it. I'm running along going, come on. And then it goes, I'm like, yeah.
Every morning? You run every morning?
Yeah.
And even when you've got the kids?
Not.
Yeah, so that's, you get up at the crack of dawn before you even drop the kids off, go for a run. And
No. I get my husband to drop the kids at school. He does that.
Jeremy, I've got to say as well, Jeremy's a great man. We filmed a Bear Grylls sketch a while ago, I remember. And Jeremy got stitched up as the cameraman, and we were filming a Bear Grylls, and you and I were doing a sketch, and he was filming, and he was offering tips as well. And he was doing, he was great.
He's a great ideas man.
Yeah.
Like he comes up with like nuggets of gold, and he goes, you should do this. I'm like, oh my God, that's like the best idea ever. And then I take that, and then I make it funny and better.
Yeah.
But no, he comes up with heaps of ideas, and I run stuff past him all the time. And he'll be like, oh, why don't you make that smarter? I'm like, how about let's not make it smarter. But you know, he grew up in the UK watching all the best British comedians, so he's loved comedy as well. So he's been like a library for me, because he's like, oh, have you seen this bit? Or have you seen this comedian? Have you seen this bit? And then he shows me other great bits, and he's like, you're a bit like that, you should kind of go that way. I'm like, he's right. So no, it's good being married to someone smarter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, my girlfriend is a lot smarter than I am, so I know exactly what you mean. It's helpful. It's definitely helpful.
Well, you see all these fuckwits marrying people who play them a song on the guitar or whatever. I'm like, don't marry the musos. Marry someone who'll do your tax, and then you'll be happy all year round. Yeah, and so,
that's it. Now, moving on to what's next for Nikki Osborne, because obviously I know you must have a lot of things cooking around upstairs in that dome of yours, wondering what the next chapter is, or you might even have some stuff up your sleeve that you're not allowed to talk about at this stage. So
I hate that. I hate embargoes. I'm never allowed to talk about anything I'm doing. It's really annoying. But what I can say, so one thing I'm doing, I got an arts grant to continue my character Bush Barbie. So much like you've got Bear Grylls, I've got Bush Barbie.
Is that a Screen Australia grant or a Screen Victoria grant, or
That was the City of Melbourne grant, and I'm waiting to hear from the Arts Council Australia, but I'm not sure saying, think of Ali G meets Steve Irwin. I don't know if they're going to go, yeah, let's throw our money at that.
That's good, though.
But
That's
who
good.
knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to film a pilot episode of that. Fuck knows what that's going to end up like, but all I know is that all my Bush Barbie videos go viral. So, there's something in it. And then I'm filming a new show with Channel 10, which is, without saying exactly what it is, I'm hosting it, and it's the naughtiest stand-up bits that never made telly because they were too naughty.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What channel's that on? 10.
That's 10. Channel 10. Yeah, they grew up here. I think it's because, you know what, we're in a pandemic and Trump's president. I think people can handle shit now.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And they said, you can say fuck, but if you say cunt, we've got to bleep it.
But like that's so great though as well, because I've been waiting for those networks to start swinging the bat and taking some more risks, especially in the comedy space. So it's really good to hear that they're doing a risky show like that. And I mean, I'm sure it'll probably rate really well just because of that, because it's one of those shows that's more human and less filtered, and I'm sure it'll go really well. Plus you're hosting it, so
Yeah,
that's
I know. And that's where I've got the bartender, right? So yeah, I'm thrilled.
Couple of scotches on the desk.
Oh yeah, they said it's written into the script. Nikki turns around, the scotch in hand. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, it's like poetry. It's wonderful. And then another show that I've got coming out later in the year is Drunk History, which is
stand-up show or no?
No, so Drunk History is a format that started in the States with Will Ferrell and Adam McKay. So McKay, fuck, I always get that wrong. Basically, they get a comedian, shit-faced, and then they tell a historical story that people may not know. And then it cuts in between them drunk narrating and actors acting out what happened in this story, except the actors aren't speaking, they're miming to my drunk narration.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's spin out. Yeah, there you go.
So it's quite a successful show in the States and in the UK, and now they've syndicated it here in Australia.
Great.
So
there you go.
Got that coming
Fantastic.
out too.
You've got a lot of things on the horizon then. You're working flat out.
Yeah.
Good.
It's great. It's really, really, really good. And it's great because,
fantastic.
I'm turning 40 next year, which,
Gee whiz.
if I was still an actress, I'd be fucking doomed because I haven't had the toxin, I haven't had my tits lifted. So the fact that I can work in comedy and just let it all just turn to shit and get more work is the best feeling ever.
Oh, come on, Nikki. You're running every morning. Surely you're looking after yourself.
Yeah, I'm running. And do you know what running does to your tits?
No, I don't. But,
Let's just say the IKEA arrows point down.
You look younger than I do. It's ridiculous,
It's the
Tell me a
ring light.
secret.
I got a fancy ring light.
Yeah, that's probably it. That might be it. Nikki, I just wanted to say thanks for joining me today on the podcast. We've had the pleasure of working together in the past before, and I've always really enjoyed working with you and thought you're really funny and really easy to get along with. So you've always been very kind to me and really generous with your time when we film sketches and stuff like that. So wishing you all the best.
Funny, Elliot.
No,
You've got talent. No, you do. You got talent. You're not just cynicism from the neck up. You've actually got talent and skills.
I feel the same way about you. And I just wanted to say thanks for giving up your time. And I'm really wishing you all the best with all your endeavours in the future, because I'm sure you'll start getting a lot more strikes moving forward. I'm sure I've been watching your steady improvement over the years and going into comedy as well. It takes a lot of balls, and you've done it really well. So you made the transition seamlessly. So I'm sure success is even more success is just around the corner.
Yeah, Ty, Elliot, world domination, Bush Barbie for PM. That's what's
That's
gonna
it.
happen.
That's it. Vote one Bush Barbie. That's what we're after.
Yeah. All right, fuck off.
Yeah. That's the perfect way to end it.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell to stay notified every time I upload a video. There's going to be plenty more podcasts with some really big name guests lined up and also some more gags as well. So, yeah, get amongst it, and I'll see you soon.